Hey welders, ready to upgrade your gear and save some serious dough in the process? The Miller Build with Blue savings and rebate program has you covered. Find amazing deals and cashback rebates on a wide range of Miller products, from welders to plasma cutters and everything in between, all backed by our 3-year warranty. Don't let this opportunity pass you by. Take advantage of the Miller Build with Blue program now. Visit us online or stop by your nearest Miller distributor today to start saving.
Okay, welcome to another episode of the Strange Motion Away podcast. I'm your host, Tim Strange, along with
Carrie Strange.
Tonight, we have a great one.
You say that every week.
Well, this one's pretty cool. If you look in the background, we moved our background. And actually, I officiated their wedding, and they're still married. So I have had one person, unfortunately, not make it after I performed their wedding. He is a 2-time Olympian, National Amateur Champion, Golden Crank Rookie Pro of the Year, Golden Crank Pro of the Year, and those awards are voted on by the whole BMX world, UCI World Cup event winner, and UCI World Cup overall season champion. I know there's a lot more there that I'm missing. Rode for iconic brands like GT, Sharrah, the great Mike Redman, and Red Bull, and he's recently started his own frame company called Divine Cycles. Welcome tonight, Corben Sharrah.
Hello.
Carrie got her shirt on first. And if you look in the background, we got back here, the 24 is Corben's career number. Well, our camera doesn't say, but that's a USA jersey that Corben gave us and signed. That's Carrie's USA jersey. And then down here, Corben gave us one year when he won at Louisville. They give Louisville Sluggers a lot, and we have these mounted on our wall in our dining room for everybody to see. And we really have no friends, so nobody really sees them. So,
You've done one podcast sitting this way.
Yeah, we did.
I don't remember who it was. You did it by yourself.
So welcome tonight, Corben.
Hello.
And if you hear background noise, he's got, I think, a dozen kids, a wife back there, a few dogs. So he lives like in a children's zoo, I think.
Yeah, we do. There's a lot of kids and everything around here, and it's good. Your house is more decorated than mine, so congratulations.
Yeah.
As you can see, there's really nothing else.
So, and it's fine if the kids run through or Nikki wants to say hello. Our cats will show up eventually, so we keep it pretty chill here. So let's go back to little Corben. How did you find BMX as a little kid?
It was just kind of magic, but the racing aspect of it, I got from local commercials. They would run from Ram BMX. They would run commercials of like the gate dropping in the first straight. So back then, just like boom, the gate would drop, and there was like a snippet of them going over the first jump, and then it just like cut and was like, "You want to race BMX? Dial this number," and it was the track's number. So that was kind of how I heard, and I would dial the number to the track when my parents weren't home, when we were on break and Grandpa was watching. I'd pick up the home phone and I would dial the track number, and they would answer, and I would hang up. And then they ended up calling back, and my parents answered and was like, "What? Who's this?" And they're like, "This number keeps calling and hanging up." It was me. So that was the racing part, and I was, I think, 5, but I really liked X Games stuff. I think back then, like freestyle. I think there was the shoe brand Airwalk, and I don't know, there was another like kind of sideshow trick thing that went on. It wasn't X Games. Gosh, I can't remember, but that was on TV too. And when I was even younger, like 3, 4, I wanted to do tricks. I loved the dudes like doing 360s, and I think Fuzzy Hall was one of them. He just did 360s, and I loved that. And it was the era, like the guys were starting to do backflips. Like it wasn't too crazy, and it was like backflip Supermans, 360s, just stuff that, I figured I could do as a little kid. And that's what I loved. And then it kind of goes into seeing that commercial and the race thing. And my brother and I raced. He raced with me till, gosh, I was 18, 19. And he kind of, like most people, they kind of get real jobs and go to college and stuff like that. So he kind of got into girls and did that stuff, and I kind of stuck with it and made it my career. But yeah, and there were neighborhood kids that rode in the neighborhood that we knew. And same thing, like we'd seen the commercial, and then the other kid we knew in the neighborhood was like, dude, I've actually been out there. Like, it's so crazy. And we had started building little ramps my parents owned a lot of like an acre next to our neighborhood home. And then, so we started shoveling dirt and building little dirt ramps. And then we'd put like bricks and like most kids do, some piece of wood and jump in the street. And we were doing that before. And then, yeah, the other racer in the neighborhood came over and it was like, you would never believe. And I'm like, well, I've seen commercials. Like, yeah, I know. And he's like, I've been there. Like, you need to go do it. And my dad took me one time after work. It was just him and I. And we didn't know if you had to pay to get in or whatever, so we sat like outside the fence and watched. And I was like, oh, you can go fast and jump big jumps. And like, this is what I'm into. So I think the other night we went out, we packed literally the whole family. I think my grandpa, both my sisters, brother, me. And funny thing is my brother's older and he didn't want to, I guess he wasn't too into it yet. So he made me start first. And that's what I was into. So
I'm thinking if my little brother doesn't die doing this, maybe I'll try it.
Yeah.
Most of the people that are listening probably will not know where you're from. So you're from Tucson?
Tucson, yes. Middle of the desert.
Always been there, correct?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
So about what year was this when you went to the
97.
Wow, it makes me
97?
You were 5
Yeah.
97.
I was 5 then, yeah.
Got married in 97.
Corbin is young enough to be our kid. We just realized that. We've been friends with Corbin for a long time. I've always known who Corbin was, a racing fan, and we got to know him because our mutual friend Ricky started, I don't know, stalking you, super fanning you, built you a gate. We delivered a gate to you at Grand's. And I kind of forget that we're old as we are. So
yeah, I could be Ricky's child too. I always think of that. I'm like, damn.
Imagine Ricky is your dad. Ricky will probably listen to this. So yeah,
that's all right though.
So awesome. Love him.
Yeah, I think he would be like that scene in Big Daddy. Why am I taking a bath in my swimming trunks? I don't know the rules. I don't know. Okay.
Yeah.
When you watched racing a couple times, and when did you finally? Was it 5 when you first actually? Hey, I'm going to go out and try this.
I was 5. Yeah. Like we had that piece of land, and we built little jumps, and I knew how to jump a bike before I went to the track. So I was probably 3, 4 when I learned how to jump, and so I knew how to jump jumps, and then 5 was in 97 when I first went out to the track, and I broke a few chromoly red lines, just dirt jumping at the house. The shop owner didn't think, because they had there's warranties on those bikes. So my dad would take me back in there and they're like, that kid didn't break that bike. And he's like, yes, he did.
I don't think I ever broke a BMX bike. I bent one. I bent a couple forks, and my Patterson, the forks are choppered out a little bit. My Cruiser, one of our riders, twisted my forks. I broke a lot of forks off big wheels, though, as a kid. I did break a lot of big wheels.
Did you? Yeah, that one, as a younger kid, I sent whatever. It didn't matter. There was teenage kids that wouldn't jump things. And I was like, well, I'll go. Didn't bug me.
He's been a jumper right from the start.
Yes.
Yeah. We're scared of heights. That's why we're not very good jumpers. That's what we say.
That's all right.
So you started racing on a red line, you said. So how long did you on a red line?
That one was like the start, like jump race bike. My first actual race bike was a white Robinson with Brand X titanium forks. I still have it. Kind of cool. My parents kept it for me forever, and I think when we moved into the house we built, they gave it to me. So it was kind of cool to have that. And I kind of want to get some wheels and kind of hang it up. That was my first race bike.
That's awesome.
And that one, I think I was 6 or 7. Other than the red line I started on, that was like the first official race bike that I had was a Robinson.
Yeah, I started on a hardware store Murray that wasn't even chromoly, that was probably felt like it was 75 pounds, but then slowly bought parts. And then finally I got my Patterson and switched all the parts over. And I still have that bike too. Yeah.
Nice.
I don't give
Well, I mean, from my start, I mean, that was the era though, was like you wanted a heavy bike. That was, other than my race bike, I know, like, because I kept up with the freestyle side of things for a while, and the heavier the better, 48 spoke, triple wall array of rim. It was like, your bike was 30 pounds, like you were cool. I don't know what everybody was thinking at that time, but yeah, that was, if your bike was heavy, that was cool.
So
Or I thought it was cool.
how long did it take you racing? Were you a natural from the start? How long did it take you to like make the main event and win a trophy?
Yeah, it didn't take long. Some of it I don't really remember. I've been doing it. I've raced so much, but I was expert in the first year that I raced. I was expert before I turned 6.
So how old are you?
32.
Okay. So can you do that math, Carrie?
What?
How many years he's been racing? 5 minus 32 minus 5. You've been racing a long time.
Yes, 27 years.
27 years. Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
That is great.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's flown by, It's just like felt like I started the other day, I don't still feel like a kid and love doing it, and still feel, like there's still something not really to earn, but there's more to learn. There's always, the way I live and always approach things is there's always something to learn. You're never learned out. I'm always open to more knowledge and new things. And there's always, I've been lucky to have a lot of people around me where we're always kind of learning. And I always feel like there's a different way to train or do something and find some speed. So I don't feel like I'm tapped out, 32.
As they say, you still got more in the tank. Carrie doesn't know that word that you just said.
Can you explain what that T word was?
Training word? Like she trained to the Worlds the first time in 2007, and she actually got 5th, and that was her last race on flats. Then she went to clips after that. But when we were riding, she did a bunny hop.
This was a long time ago.
She thought she invented something. I was like, no, Carrie, like that's what everybody does. Like,
it was pretty cool.
Yeah, she thought she could do it.
Wasn't just a
she probably can't do a
hop.
bunny hop now. But,
No,
yeah.
I don't. No.
So you turn expert. When was your first, like, you get on a bike shop team?
Yeah, I rode there was 2 big teams, or kind of 3 in town. There was one I rode for. There's the one I rode for was called Poor Boy, but they had like a rivalry with a team called, actually, what was funny? It was called Team Strange.
That's awesome.
There was like Poor Boy Strange, and there was another bike shop that was sponsored by Schwinn. I think it was, I forgot what it was called. Full Cycle, I think is what it was. And I rode for Poor Boy with a local that lived by us. His name was Billy Rhodes. He was the team manager. I rode for them for a while as a kid, and they were just like a trophy local joint, and I rode for them. I don't really know how long it was. Gosh, I was so young. I don't know, but I really wanted to ride for Redmond. That was like my thing. That was my one goal. I remember as a kid was like, he was making American made bikes, and he had like the monocoque that was welded all the way down like it was seamed like all the way down. That was basically 2 pieces together. And I love the craftsmanship of that bike. And my dad was big into like USA made stuff, and at the time Redmond was like the guy. And I held out for, I think I started winning nationals at 7 or 8. And I was just like, I want to ride for him. And I had some other bike shop offers, from traveling like national teams, and I was like, no, I'll stay riding for my parents and Poor Boy, and I'll ride for Redmond when that time comes. So, and I think that came around 9.
What's your local scene like? When you were like,
what's up?
What was your local scene like? Like, the locals, is it similar to what it is today? Or,
no, it was completely different. Way, way different. They generally did only run though one night a week, maybe 2. There was a practice night and a race night, which was Saturday. And I think we practiced on Tuesdays, but we were gosh, 50 motos, 50, 60 motos. There was pro-ams. There was semis. I mean, we had the scene in Tucson was absolutely crazy. We had Andy Contes was going to the U of A here when I was a kid. I grew up being able to watch him, who I think he won a cruiser title back then when he was riding for GT. He was here, and there was a ton of, I mean, just local experts that really could have been pro. You know, I mean, he was, the crazy thing is Andy was great, and he was on GT and factory and well known, but there was, you would see guys, I mean, you'd see him get beat locally every now and again. Like, look at these guys beating this dude that wins national, like is one of the best double A's in the nation. Like how? So the scene here was crazy when I was a kid. And I think that's what really inspired me, was seeing that. Like that's kind of what I grew up, came into, was seeing these huge, gigantic local races and things like that. So it was definitely a lot different than it was nowadays.
Where was your first national that you went to?
The winters. I think I raced the winter nationals the year I started in 97, or it might have been 98. It might have been the year after. I have the photo somewhere in the house. I always laugh seeing that thing. I'm like, goodness. But yeah, it would be the winters. And Black Mountain for a little while was my local track, because there was a kid, the first or second night out at the track. My parents sat in front of, there was like a roller table, and I think clips were pretty new these days too. Cause, there was a kid that, was just clipped in, and he looped out, and he ended up breaking his neck right in front of my parents. Literally, this was one of the first few times out at the track, and he's yelling, "I can't feel my legs," and screaming, you know, and that's what really sparked. That's why I rode flats for so long, was because literally that night I got in the car and my parents were like, "Hey, if you're racing, you're not going to race. You're not going to ride clips at all. You will not clip into one of those bikes."
Yeah, I had one of those like that. Not clips, obviously. This was in the 80s. I didn't have my driver's license yet. So my parents always took me to a track if I wasn't comfortable with it and made me watch a race. So on the Illinois side of the Quad Cities, we had tracks that I raced at. Well, there was one on the Iowa side, Mississippi Valley. That's actually the first time I ever seen a race. We were at the Beach Boys concert at the fairgrounds, and I sat there with my binoculars and was watching the BMX races over there. And I was like, man, I want to do that. Well, we went, my mom and I think my cousin raced, and my aunt and me, we went to watch the races at East Mississippi Valley. The kid went over like a step-up thing and flipped. Of course, you know, this was 80s, so there was no clips then. And he flipped over, and somebody ran over him. And
oh no!
With the story that he broke his neck, but I don't think he got, like, he could walk and stuff, but he got screwed up pretty good. My parents never let me race that track, ever.
Really?
Like, and it closed by the time I got my driver's license, so I couldn't go there on my own. But yeah, like,
yeah,
no, I'm not racing that. But
yeah, wow. And that my story kind of leads into too. Yeah, I was like, after that, it was no clips, and then the track ended up getting shut down from that, and that was within like right at the start of when I was racing, you know. And then it shut down, and really, I ended up locally. We were driving like an hour and a half to Chandler up north, and it was either Chandler or Black Mountain.
When that track, Tucson didn't have another track. There was
there was a year, almost a year and a half where there was no track. Yeah, we had to drive to Phoenix. I mean, luckily my parents were committed, you know, and obviously I guess I was. But yeah, we raced in Phoenix because there wasn't a scene down here.
Oh, wow. That is crazy that you coming out of that, like a two-time Olympian, almost didn't happen because the track got closed.
Yeah.
Like, had your parents not been 100% committed to drive that far?
Yeah.
No, that's crazy.
Yeah, it was a big commitment. Yeah, we were driving hours. I mean, 3 hours at minimum each way, a couple times a week to just stay racing BMX. And at that time too, it's like obviously I was good, but I wasn't like crazy good. You know, I was still riding for just a mom and pop team at the track, and yeah, really credit a lot to my parents taking me and spending time on taking me back and forth to Phoenix. Yeah, because we easily could have folded up and been like, well,
Yeah,
there's
that's
no
crazy.
scene here, you know. It couldn't.
Who's trying to get your attention there? Who's that? I can't see who it is.
Grayson.
Hey, dude.
What?
Hey, buddy.
Hey.
You want to say hi?
It's in the car.
He's like, nope. I
No,
wasn't.
he's shy.
Awesome.
Same as I am.
So you said you got on Redmond when you were 9?
Yeah.
That's incredible. So how did?
Yeah,
how
I
did
won
you,
the.
You just.
I won the
pestering?
Grands. What's up?
Did you just keep pestering him, or did he finally somebody from the team come up and talk to you?
No, we didn't know. I mean, to be honest, we didn't know or talk to anybody national wise. You know, like the way we were is we had our local scene and knew like Kirk and Julie from the track, and we just kind of kept to ourselves in the bleachers and did our own thing. And
That doesn't
we
surprise me.
didn't really talk to many people on other bike shop teams, we weren't really gossipy type people to go around and know what was going on. Or I think my sisters knew more what was going on everywhere than any of us ever did. And no, I won. I mean, I really just raced until, gosh, I don't even know how we got a call or whatever, who even ended up with my parents' number somehow. But I just raced until I did good enough to get a call. I think it was Mike or Richard Huvard, who was the team manager at the time, had called my parents somehow. But yeah, I won the Grands in 9 and under cruiser as an 8-year-old on flats. And I was like nag. I mean, and this too was when they only did nag 10. So I don't know what I think I was 12 or something at the time, and I needed a good finish or to win. And I ended up winning 9 and under cruiser when I was 8. And after that, yeah, was when I got a call the next year to ride for Mike.
Cool. So how was that? It was like that's all you wanted to do was ride for Redmond. When you were 9, did you realize how big of a deal it was for getting the call to ride for Redmond?
Not really. I don't think so. No.
You were just like, yeah, that's what I wanted.
That was
made
just
it happen.
It was just all, that was all I wanted to do. Is I wanted to ride bikes with my brother and friends and race for Redmond bikes. That was the goal. It wasn't, to me, it wasn't going to go any farther than that. That was, as an amateur little kid, that was the pinnacle. That was like, that was what I wanted to do.
Oh, at that time with Redmond, was that, I know there was times where he had like the semi truck and he had Yamaha and all that. What era of Redmond was this? Was there a big team pit and all that stuff?
Yeah, it was pretty huge. I think that year I joined was it was one of the first years Yamaha came on, is Yamaha Wave Runner and whatever, and it was big. Yeah, it was pretty big time. I had like the semi, or I don't know if it was the semi yet, but he had a huge, like 40 big trailer and all that good stuff. So,
and now
it was right in that era.
That big. No teams have that big rig. Profile's got a rig, but they don't go to all those events and stuff. But yeah, it was a different era back then. Yeah,
it was definitely a different scene. Being back in the early 2000s is being on a team like that, where it was, the team stuff is hard to win. I mean, I still give the teams nowadays mad props for if you can win the team title, because it's hard. And it's not one person, it's a group, it's a collective of a good group of, at least you probably need 5 to 8, maybe even 10 really, really some of the best racers in the States to perform almost every weekend. So,
and it's not just somebody that wins every time. It's got to be somebody with a big rider count too. That's what people on the outside.
Yeah, it's hard.
That's why, we're going to travel and try to win again at this big race, because that's a lot of riders there.
Yeah. And I think when we did it, as a kid, when I rode for Mike, it was not easy, not to say it was easier, but I think there was less weekend schedules, so every weekend was a big weekend. It didn't matter what weekend it was. You were needing to perform, you were needing to do well, not just for yourself, for the team. And so I like that too. And
this time there was still 2 sanctions, right? There was ABA. And you just, did you ever do any NBL?
I did. I could count on one hand how many NBL races I did. I think I did 3 or 4.
Yeah.
We were nibblers.
Yeah, we were NBLers just because that was our local. Well, I was ABA as a kid. I didn't race 2 sanctions. Then when we got back into it, early 2000s, it was just NBL. And then finally I think we went to the ABA Grands once or twice before they joined the sanctions. So
Yeah, there just wasn't any NBL around me. You know, I think the closest was in Vegas, right outside of Vegas. There was Nellis and what's the other one? Boulder. They were the only NBL, and there really wasn't a reason for me to go over there and race.
yeah.
Until I think the first one I did was in 2007 or 8 when the Worlds were in Canada. That was the first one. Those were the first NBL races I did.
Yep.
Yeah.
2007.
That's a jersey from Canada, isn't it?
It is.
Yep. She got 5th that year in the ladies cruiser in her class in 07. So
Awesome.
yeah. You know what? As we're jumping out of order, in 07, what class would you have been in then?
15.
Okay. How did you do that year?
I got second.
Who beat you?
I remember seeing that.
It's a sour story here. This is a Tori got me.
Oh, Canadian boy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're just gonna say home court advantage.
Yeah, no, it was. I was so mad, man. I remember. I know my mistake too. We were that the double on at the bottom of the hill was big, right? It was a big, like, deep double.
Yeah.
And from what I had seen, and you know, we'd been jumping it. All the kids, we were jumping it. It was like if you weren't jumping it, you were going straight to the back. And I don't know if he was keeping something up his sleeve or whatever, but we get to the main, and I jump it, and he manuals it, and just squeaked in the inside, and I was like, no way. So yeah, I ended up getting second.
I remember that was one of the, no offense, one of the most exciting pro finals I'd seen at that point in my career. You know, growing up in the '80s, watching Ellis and Greg Hill and everybody, but it was between Bennett, Kyle Bennett, and yeah, you rode with him on Hard.
Kaylin?
Yeah, Kaylin Young,
Yeah.
huge Kaylin Young fan. And man, that was just an epic battle. And we got to know Kaylin a little bit because the hotel we stayed at, the Aussies were all on our floor. So we got to see, you know, in the hallway and, you know, meet him a little bit. So yeah, that was a good time. What a beautiful place that place. I'd like to go.
Yeah, it was awesome. Yeah. It was beautiful. There were some of the best races there too. I think all those elite races, I think wasn't that the one in the junior where Yvonne Lapraz came unclipped out of the gate from last and came back and won? I think that was then, wasn't it?
I don't know. See, one of our stories, we took some kids. I know this is hard to believe for people, especially some of our car people that might listen to this. People signed over guardianship to me and Carrie so we could take their underage children out of the state. We took Chase Crawford out of the country, and he rode for Standard Bikes back then. We took, you know, shipped everything into Seattle to a hot rod shop. Buddies built the bikes, got a van, did the ferry ride, the whole thing. And this whole time, I've told her this story, and she didn't have a sense of humor about it. But he was like the same age as Elise Post, this Chase Crawford. And they were very friendly. Like, we did vacation stuff, and it's like, oh, you want to go kayaking? And her mom's like, no, you're here to race. You're not playing around. And I was like, Chase, that would be a good girlfriend for you. And he's like, oh, no, me and Elise are just friends. I could not date Elise Post. And I was like, well, why not? He goes, I have one rule. I cannot date a girl that has better ab muscles than I do. That was it. And I was like, well, okay. So we were talking about jumping down that first straight at, we're going to go back a little bit, but at that 07 Worlds, that was the first time ever we had seen Dominic Daniels race in person.
Oh, really?
And I'm like, man, who is this girl? She is a beast. Like, I was just blown away on how fast and how powerful she was. And that was also the first time I met her dad. And he's just like screaming at her. Like, you got to jump that. You're going to lose this if you don't jump that. And we all know, if you're a BMXer, Dominic Daniels was not known for her jumping skills.
No.
And was she powerful and fast. And man, it was impressive to watch. You know, I don't know what age she was or who she was racing at that time, but I don't think she was actually racing with Elise, but Elise could jump and stuff like that. It's totally different, more of a finesse rider and power. But I remember asshole Tim not scared to speak up to somebody, and her dad's a big dude, and I'm not a small guy. And I just walked up when he's like almost drilling his finger into her chest and screaming at her. I'm like, girl, I've never seen you ride before. You are badass. You're snap, you're yay, you're power. And he's just glaring at me. She was super polite. Thank you, sir. Thank you. I put a lot in. She was super nice. And but yeah, I pissed her dad off, but he just bit his tongue and he stomped off. Yeah.
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 Yeah, well, that's good.
Yeah, it's good. I put him in his place a little bit, but yeah, he always seemed to remember me after that too.
He did.
Yeah,
He did.
so okay, we'll go back. You're starting racing with Redmond, and at that time, like a full factory at that time, you're getting travel, entry fees, all that. It was like the last of the golden era of factory era, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it still was. I don't know if I was necessarily getting travel. I mean, like I said, I didn't care what I got as long as I got the bike.
Yeah, before you were still factory because mom and dad was paying for it. So when you're
I didn't know any different. I was factory regardless.
Yeah.
Because like I said, all I wanted was the frame. I guess I never knew or questioned or asked, what am I getting? What do we get out of this? What's going to go on here? And a lot of the times, Morley, it was Richard, who was the manager at the time. Mike didn't care because I was winning. But a lot of times I didn't ride some of the sponsor stuff and whatever because I was picky. I was like, if it wasn't what I wanted to ride, it was not on my bike. I was not riding something I didn't want to ride. So my parents were still providing that stuff. And I think logistics and stuff, too, they still took care of that. And honestly, I've been very fortunate. I don't think they really asked for much either. It was like, hey, if the kid's going to get the bike he wants and it'll make him perform, then that's all they could ever ask for. And I think that's all I ever even needed. I wasn't like, hey, we need this or that. There was never ever a we with my parents and myself. It was always for Corben. For me, it was always him. And I always appreciated that. There was almost no like, hey, you need to do this, you need to do that. Like, and when I think my parents would talk to people, there was never a we. It was him. That was almost like they wouldn't. Because a lot of the parents and stuff nowadays, it's like, what do we get? What do we do for this? What are you going to do for him and us and we? And it's like, it was different back then. Or even my parents, like I said, it was all for me. And like I said, I was pretty oblivious other than getting on the bike and riding. I didn't really know.
I've been around BMX from 1984, 85 till 91. And then we come back 2002 or 3, and we've still been around BMX nonstop since then. And like you say, those parents that are we, or what can we get? I guarantee you those people probably are not staying in the sport for 27 years. And I mean, you see that probably at your local, and we've seen that at our locals here. People come in BMX and they're hog wild and they do this and they do that. 4 or 5 years, they're going to another sport. They get burned out. And you enjoy it. Like I love BMX. To me, it's the best sport in the world. So, if you enjoy it and have fun with it, we use it as it's our stress relief from our car world. And we've sponsored a bunch of kids through the years and everything. Did you see the video I shared today? It was like 2010 video of the pit bike race at the Grands when Lane Gaynor went through the pro section and won. For us. It was awesome. Yeah.
That is awesome.
So, okay, you go back. How old were you when you first okay, I got to go fly to an event?
Oh, geez. I don't even.
Half the time,
I don't even remember.
Yeah, you don't fly that much now.
No, I still don't. I mean, if it's not across the pond or something, we don't. I try to stay on the ground, honestly.
The guy that jump.
The guy that loves to
stay on the ground.
Yeah, no, I don't know. Like, as far as my parents are traveling, like if we were always going as a family. So it was like, I mean, I had 2 sisters and a brother. There were 6 of us. We weren't buying 6 plane tickets and going.
Yeah.
So we had an excursion that we all got into, or Kirk and Julie's van, their 15 passenger van when we were kids, and we all just kind of banded together and went across the country. We didn't hardly fly anywhere really. I think honestly, my first flight, I was 15, 14, was to Japan. It's crazy. And
Was that for the
I had
world?
somehow randomly, I don't even know how they got to my parents or whatever, but got an invite from their federation to like come race this race, and they were going to pay for my whole trip to go out there. And I had to get a passport. So like my mom took me to I had like the time to get this stuff done too was minimal. Like my mom took me the day before the flight, drove me to LA, went to the embassy, got a passport, drove her 14-year-old kid to the airport, walked me to the gate crying, and was like, bye. And I was on by myself.
Oh, wow.
And
Wow.
yeah, I went on my solo. I was meeting Mike and other people, but like I wasn't going to see them till I got in Japan. So so you just let me go when I was 14 years old to Japan from here, and that was one of the first flights I ever remember, really.
So when you mentioned Kirk and Julie, for people that aren't aware, that's Delaney Vaughn's mom and dad. So how old was Delaney at this time when you guys were traveling together? Was she racing yet, or was just her brother mostly at that time?
When we started, it was just Dylan. She wasn't born. She was born in 01. So I mean, she was she was being made really, really. When we started, and she was just in diapers and stuff when we started traveling together. So pretty.
How old were you when you went to your first world championships? Did you go much as a younger kid?
Not UCI. The Canada was the first one.
Okay.
I raced the ABA Worlds a lot. I think I only lost that a handful of times.
And where that was in California, right?
Yeah, it was always in Ontario. I mean, that's what I thought was the Worlds, honestly, because they called it. It was the ABA World, and there were kids that would fly over.
Is there still a track in Ontario?
What was that?
There's still a track in Ontario?
I don't think so. No.
Yeah, we fly in there for the car show, and she goes to King of the Hammers coming up, and we fly into Ontario. I got a good friend that lives there too. So yeah, I don't think there is a track there anymore.
Yeah, I don't think so. But a lot of those companies were, from there. That was where like Power Light was, and a lot of the Robinson. There was Cutting Edge BMX was the track. Mm. But yeah, I don't think it's there anymore.
So you were kind of late to go to Clips. How old were you when you finally somebody's like, man, you need to go to Clips? And if you had your way down, you'd still be on flats all the time, wouldn't you?
Yeah. I think it would be cool if they just kind of banned them for BMX racing. I mean, everything is possible on flat pedals. I don't. There is a couple pedals, but once you get past third, fourth rank, I mean, there's really not much of a difference.
Yeah.
But I was 13.
Okay. I've clipped in once, and I did it at Hobart, Indiana indoor track. Not the best place to try clips for the first time.
It was dumb. And
she rides clips, and I tell her if she don't train or nothing, the clips are not doing her any justice in old woman cruiser. She should just go back to flats, shouldn't she, Corben?
It's so loose that it's not like it literally is just enough to keep my foot on the pedal. But if I pull, I'm pulling right out of it. Like it's not.
Yeah, it takes it takes a lot of training. It's a lot to.
Well, the reason she can clip in and out fairly good. I mean, she hasn't been on her bike for a while because she got injured in May, and the only reason she went to the hospital is because your wife told her to, because she ain't going to listen to nobody else but Nikki. When we put profile cranks on her bike, and profiles are for freestyle bikes too. So the sprocket boss nut hole threaded is on left and right cranks on a profile on the. I had the cranks on the wrong side, so the pedals were wrong. So she had to clip in backwards. Like she was riding around the living room. It's like, this seems awkward.
Like
Then
there
finally,
is no
we
way
go to
these
the-
little kids can do this in the gate. Like
Yeah,
this is
try
insane.
clipping in the other way, like changing your cranks from side to side. And Carrie figured it out and almost raced a race that way until she got to the track. And the one dad, he's like, "You got the crank arms on the wrong way. That's why you're having trouble clipping in." It's like, oh, so she switched it. And she goes, "That's way easier."
It's so
Way
easy.
Yeah.
I didn't know anything. I've never had clips, so I didn't know how to. Yeah, I just wasn't paying attention. Just put the cranks on, and yeah. Okay, so now you're clipped in. You go on a winning streak, or what? How old were you when you won the national championship?
The amateur title, the amateur one?
Yeah.
I was 17,
Okay.
racing 17, 18X in 2009.
I remember one time when we were hanging out in the thing, and I forgot that you'd won the title, and I go, "Was that on Cruiser?" I thought you were gonna punch me. He's like, "No, but you did race Cruiser, and you were very good on Cruiser." So I was thinking,
I raced Cruiser for a long time. Yeah.
yeah. So
And
there's
really, I kind of hung it up because I was getting frustrated because I never won the amateur title on Cruiser. I got number 2 multiple times. And I mean, you know, how most teens get, you know, you kind of just get out of it and it's like, I'm just going to focus on one bike.
and then when you
it
start
was around
traveling
that
more,
time, you know.
it's harder dragging 2 bikes around too. But you raced Pro Cruiser for a while too, as we're going out of order here again. You raced Pro Cruiser at the end because Barry Nobles, Barry listens to this. We're good friends with Barry, so I'm going to give Barry a hard time here. Barry says USA BMX owes him his Cruiser title because they didn't run it at the Grands. And I remember I was talking to you on it, was like, Barry's getting a little ahead of himself because we still had to race and there wasn't enough people, so there's a big story. But yeah, Barry didn't have that title wrapped up, did he?
No. Yeah, there was no race. Yeah. So it kind of just ended where it was. And that was the end of Pro Cruiser. And I was honestly kind of sad, you know. I loved Pro Cruiser. I mean, not that I would jump on a cruiser and race it every day, every week at the local, but I mean, yeah, I thought it was great. And I never got to run when there was Pro Open, but I just loved how much opportunity there was to race and to make money. You know, it was like there was ample opportunity. Like I said, there was an open class, there was a cruiser class, there was the regular AA, and it was like if you were willing to race it all and you were in shape, it was like, yeah, you might as well race it all, and because you're going to get a bigger paycheck at the end of the weekend, or if you had bad luck in one place or the other, you had more of a chance to make some money. So
yeah, we can talk for hours about the future of BMX, where things that guys like us have been in the sport for so long, what we think it needs to be better. But if you're a sponsor, you want your jersey on the track as much as possible. And if you're seeing them in Pro class, your Pro Open, and your Cruiser class, you're seeing that sponsor, that jersey, those logos on the track more chance for pictures, event coverage, and it gives you, the rider, more chance to make more money. Everybody bitches there's money in the sport of BMX. And I think it's might piss some people off here because they may won't hire me again, but USA BMX brings me in to help with the Hall of Fame stuff a little bit. I don't know if I'm doing it this year, but to win that amount of money for a pro title for a professional athlete it should be embarrassing to them. It's embarrassing. I mean, yeah, it's money. You're not building a motor, you're not putting gas in it, but he's just biting his tongue. But I mean, yeah, you want money, but I mean, hats off to Nick Long, what he does. It almost doubles.
Absolutely.
Everybody donates, and I always say Nick is the Van Wilder of BMX. You know, he's been in it for so long, and he just loves it and does so much stuff. And then, the sport kind of, unfortunately, he had a little scare with his daughter this year, and the sport rallied around him and paid him back. I mean, not paid him back, but raised a bunch of money. And the sport loves their pros and loves Nick Long. So I thought that was amazing how that happened. But yeah, so now so how old were you when you actually turned pro?
It was kind of one of those weird deals, where you could race amateur, but you could race like the World Cup, the big Supercross things and whatnot. So I was racing that before I actually turned pro. honestly, like
That was kind of
officially turned pro, you know. So
you're in that era. You're like the first generation of doing that Supercross big hill stuff, right?
yes. Well, I wouldn't call it first. I mean, I think we were almost like a hybrid. We weren't first, but we were like second, first-ish. Because I would say first would be like your Donnie, Mike Day, Kyle Bennett. Those were the guys, like Chris Fox.
Yeah.
They were probably even Nick. I mean, Nick was he's a few years older than me, so he got a taste. Like
And he was doing that same thing. He was still
hybrid.
Amateur, and then he was racing UCI stuff too.
Yes.
And I remember,
And that kind of just transitioned into same for me. I was able to kind of do the same thing.
so that the Supercross is amazing to watch. I say it's the only sport that's in the Olympics that you watch that, and if you go to your local track, it's not the same. That's a little bit deceiving to try to get new people into sport if they watch in the Olympics. You watch hockey in the Olympics, it's the same when you go play hockey as a 5-year-old. You watch soccer and gymnastics, and BMX is just like, it's Supercross. I mean, it's 40 gaps. And I remember I read a story or something, because it was probably before the internet, that I was always a Stumpy fan. Randy Stumphauser, loved watching Randy race. And he was on the cusp to go to the first Olympics, and he only raced like a few Supercrosses, and he tapped out. You know, he was close to retiring. He's like, I got kids, and Supercross just didn't make him feel comfortable. But you being a jumper and breaking frames by the time you were 5 years old already, you probably just love soaring through the air. I mean, the feeling I can't even imagine. Like when you stand at the top of a Supercross hill, you can barely see the whole transition when you stand up there.
Yeah.
I mean, it'd be like, it'd be a good sledding hill if there was snow on it.
Yeah, there's some of them you can't see the bottom because they're all different. You know, there's supposed to be a spec where they're all the same, but they're not. Some are steeper and some are more mellow, but there's some, you can't see. You see to the kink, and until you're there, you don't see the rest, the rest of it till you're going down. Those ones are a thrill to ride, but yeah, there's really nothing like it, honestly.
A thrill. I won't even walk down it.
Yeah. I don't think you can walk.
Yeah, it's crazy. And that too, it was just kind of bred because that was the era of like, that's where at the time, that's where BMX was. I think that's where they thought it was going. You know, there was like the downhill X Games stuff a little before that. And then it transitioned into that UCI stuff where they could kind of pack that hill up. They could pack the Supercross hill up and take it on a boat, or they could take it across the world and kind of build the track wherever they wanted to with that big old hill and make it.
Did you ever race that downhill X Games track?
I didn't know. I was too young. I wanted to.
Yeah, that was gnarly. That was a gnarly. You watch videos.
I bet.
Of that. Yeah, that was, man, people blowing up, and yeah, it was just like, it looks like now they race mountain bikes down that type of stuff. But yeah, that was, no thanks. I don't leave the ground anymore. Yeah. Yeah. I was never a big jumper though. Like I was never a good manualer. I had some power, and I never won an expert national. I was never that good. I made some mains in nationals on my cruiser, 16 and 17. But yeah, I was never a big jumper. Yeah.
I just fly through the air all the time.
Yeah, on accident you do. Yeah, and then you hit the ground and break everything in your body.
Yeah, it's not the flying; it's the landing that's the problem.
Yeah. So,
right,
where were we at?
So he just turning pro.
Just pro, yeah, pro in general. But yeah, I didn't officially turn until I was 17, turning 18. It's the same as it is now. I think you got to be 18 years old to turn AA, or maybe not. Maybe they took it back to 16. But yeah, at the time to actually race. Redmond? Yeah, I was still riding for Redmond. And at the time to race what was elite, which is now, I think it may still be elite or AA. Yeah, you had to be 18 to race that, or unless if you weren't 18, you raced junior elite. So I was 18.
That's your first.
Yeah, it's funny too. Somebody tagged me in a video today of my first ever Supercross win in 2011. When that was the year I'd turned pro, so it was kind of cool to see that. I was like, oh,
Where was that at? Your
Throwback.
first Supercross win?
Where was it?
Yeah.
South Africa.
Okay. So how in the States when you turned pro the first time, how did your first pro race go?
I think I made semis. I might have made a main. I don't remember exactly. I
Not
know I at
that
least made the
memorable,
semi.
So he didn't win.
Yeah, he didn't win. So
I didn't win, no.
So when you come into the pro class, was there anybody with big elbows that taught you a lesson and stuffed you a time or two?
No. I was very respectful of the guys coming in. Gosh. I don't know. Didn't come in with any sort of ego or even, I didn't come in with, honestly, I didn't really know what to expect. Honestly, I didn't know where my career would go. It was just like I'd won that amateur title. I was 17, 18 years old. And I felt like I'd won everything in the amateur ranks, still had Mike back me. And I was just like, hey, I want to race whoever's the best, and I didn't really care who it was. And I was never one to race real aggressive, so if I wasn't straight up beating you out of the gate or whatever, I was just going to ride where I was at and take what came to me. I wasn't going to be super aggressive with trying to, there were times, as I learned how to hold my line and things like that, but I was pretty respectful and didn't really get into many scuffles as a young kid coming into the class. We had Mike Day, who had won a silver medal. Donnie had won a bronze. These guys, Bubba Harris had been multi-time ABA national champ, world champ. And, these guys are they're racing at pretty much the top of their game. And I knew they had families to feed and things, I knew they were hungry, and it was like, I just wanted to race. And like I said, if I wasn't coming out of the gate straight up beating you, I wasn't going to come under you or take some kind of line that was going to mess anybody up. So there really wasn't anybody or any experience, I think, that was like, man, that opened my eyes to like, these dudes are gnarly. Like I said, I knew they were gnarly from the get-go. So it was morely learning like what I needed to do to be able to just get a good gate and be out front and hold the line. So obviously, I'll fully admit that, you guys probably know this too. I'm not the greatest pack racer. I've tried to learn as best I can, and I always do the best I can. But, my motto usually is, if I can't just straight up beat you, I'm not going to do anything crazy to advance my position or nothing like that. I'll always kind of.
As a racing fan, I always enjoyed it when Bubba Harris totally had a bad gate. Because he was very aggressive in the corners when he won.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah, I always enjoyed watching that.
Yeah, that was fun to watch, but that was never ever going to be me. So, and I knew that. I loved watching it. I love guys that could do it. Like I said, I respect it. That's a whole different type of racing and animal to accomplish. But yeah, I just, like I said, I respected all the guys from day one. And I was really grateful, if I could beat them around the track, then I was stoked, and I wasn't going to do something out of my norm or disrespectful to make somebody be mad at me.
Yeah. Cause you're kind of known, and we agree with that, one of the smoothest in this era of racing. And you have been for the longest time. Like I remember sometime you coming back from a lap and I was like, dude, are you even trying? Cause you're so smooth. It doesn't look like you're trying. And you go, trust me, I am trying. But there was that one time, it was either Louisville or Nashville, one of the motos, and you're like, so you want to go see me win a lap? Yeah, and you did. You went out and won it. Like, goes, well, that doesn't really work like that. I just had a good gate and everything. I was like, so that's whenever we see Corben, we're like, come on, Corben, go win us a lap. And yeah. So, okay, how long did you ride for Redmond before the next opportunity came up?
I think I rode for them till I was right in that range around 2018, I think was coming into 17 was the last year I won the amateur title. And I had started, I think, into 18 when I got the call from GT. Because when I watched that race from South Africa that I won, I was riding a GT. So it was like 2018 when I had transitioned from Redmond to
when you first
GT.
started pro, you were still on Redmond, but you weren't on Redmond very long.
No.
Okay. So before we go on to GT and Haro, what is a crazy?
Oh no, sorry. That was 12. No, 11. Sorry, I'm way ahead of myself. We were, for some reason, we were around that era.
Was Nikki correcting you?
Yeah, Nikki was correcting me. Sorry.
Hi, Nikki.
The boss in the background was like, hold on. No, that's when your son was born.
That is something that we need to bring up because you guys met at the BMX track. How old were you when you met Nikki?
Oh, I was just a kid. We were kids. It was right around when I started riding for Redmond. I was 8, 9 years old.
And
So was she like in love with Corben Sharrah? Can she hear us? Or it was like, this guy's a factory rider. I'm gonna date a factory boy. I want to know what. Yeah, she's not gonna come on, is she?
No, and it was nothing like that. We hung out for a long time. Her brother was really, really good. Randy was, I think he got NAG 1 in cruiser and was top 5 NAG in class for
So
years.
was there anything like the story that, hi Nikki, you can say hello to everybody. So I was there at helping do stuff the year that Bubba Harris got in the Hall of Fame. And we were recording again. We got cut off there and had to switch a little computer crashed system there. Yeah. So I was talking about Bubba Harris getting inducted in the Hall of Fame, which I think you'll be there eventually in the Hall of Fame. But he told the story when his wife was actually a BMX track girl too, and she stalked him so much that at one race he hid in the men's bathroom to get away from her. That was hilarious. So, okay, where were we on that? We were talking about your gate starts and you were not that aggressive in the corners, and that.
Yeah.
Before we get to GT, give us some crazy, not to make anybody sound bad. Give us the best Redmond story you got.
I don't know. I would say
I loved his announcing. I always talked to him, because when we had some of our riders would leave and come, and I just started messaging him online on Facebook, and he'd be like, oh, he'd help me through some times. Like, we had kids that, they were sitting in NAG and then they didn't go to the grands and then they just quit. And I was like, dude, how do you handle that? And he kind of helped us some stuff. But we always talked Rottweilers because he was a Rottweiler guy. But yeah, we loved Red.
Yeah, he was a Rottweiler guy. But there was a couple of them. I think one was when I was real young. He had just picked me up, but he was coming through Tucson for traveling to a race or something, and we were always at the Vaughns or at Kirk and Julie's house and stuff, and they had a house in a neighborhood, and it was just a track home, but we would set up ramps in the plastic. I don't even know what you call those ramps, but we'd set them up in their living room and come down the hall and jump them with just like pit bikes and stuff. And in their house, though, we would just come go around the kitchen island and come around and jump in the living room. And he had came through and seen the madness. And this was like one of the first times he'd seen, our family dynamics and like the BMX scene down here. And he was like, you guys are jumping bikes in the Vaughn's house? Like, what is this? This is crazy. And I know he had always announced that.
Were the parents home during that?
Oh yeah, everybody was there. They were home. It was just a regular get together. I think it was my family and the Vaughns and a few other people, and Mike was coming by. So yeah, everybody was there. It was a packed house, but we were just setting up the ramps and jumping through whoever wasn't getting out of the way.
It's awesome.
But yeah, that was kind of as crazy as for me as I remember. I always seen him at the races and stuff, but I didn't get to travel with him too much. It's just like him and I, or like him with the team or nothing like that. My parents and stuff kind of took us, so we kind of seen him, but we didn't see too much craziness going on. But yeah, no, he was, and it just was always amazing how he remembered like everything. And anybody's like, if he came to your local track, if he went here, if he went there, like he remembered everybody. And that was always fascinating to me. Like the guy's memory and just like how much he could recall from just any sort of run in or just any interaction with anybody. He always remembered it no matter what. And that always baffled me. I'm like, this guy is special for sure.
Yeah. And that's why he made a great announcer too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which Grindel's a little bit like that too. He remembers all this stuff. He goes to all those smaller tracks and he remembers all these people. So I think Grindel's does a good job. There'll be no replacing ever Redmond on the microphone, but I think Grindel does a pretty good job.
No. Yeah. And one of my greatest memories it was kind of having to watch a video back. I don't know if it was from my parents' camera when I won the amateur title or from on like one of USA BMX's feed at some point. But when I won that race, they like pan the camera down to Mike was announcing and they panned the camera to him and he dropped all the moto sheets. He just dropped them, dropped it and left. It was like, it was over. He dropped it. And that was one of the coolest things to me was seeing like how much my career and what I was doing meant to him as well. That would always have a special place in my heart. I always remember watching that video and seeing him drop the moto sheets. I was like, that is cool.
So before we get to the GT stuff here, how does that feel when you're sitting in the gate up for a title and you hear with a win and only a win? How much more pressure is put on there? Or are you immune to it at this time? Like, do you hear that and it's like, oh my God, I have to do. Did you have to win when you got your title?
Yeah. Well, yeah. There was, it's real. I think there was only one time it was somebody could get second, but yeah. I mean, the way you had to win, you weren't getting second and win the title. Yeah. I don't care what went on, you had to win to get a title. So, but no, man,
we'll never hear that.
We will live
it. Win, only a win. Yeah. So explain the feeling when you hear that.
Gosh, I really honestly don't remember, but what I remember was how nervous I was before like loading once I was in the gate, it didn't, I mean, I think even nowadays it doesn't, once you're loaded up and you've kind of went through the whole process of getting ready to get in the gate. Cause I think that's where most of the nerves are, is sitting in staging, sitting in that chute, sitting behind, even nowadays, sitting, waiting for your moto, waiting for whatever's coming up. That's where most of everything goes through your head. And that's where having a good routine and something set that you can do every time to keep your mind where it needs to be set in stone. And because that's where your mind can go crazy. And it could really, that's what I think gets the best of racing is 99% mental. Yeah. It's
do you have a
nuts
weird,
how mental it is.
Like
regimen?
Not regimen, but like superstition. Do you have anything like, oh, I got my lucky, like I used to, when I was racing NBL, was it intermediate back then? And there was my guy, and he still races, Francisco Vega. He always had to be the first one in the staging. And I figured this out we were in Warsaw, Indiana, and it might have been the first race. That Warsaw, Indiana was the first when they became USA BMX.
Yeah.
So I know it was in Warsaw, and I figured out his thing. So I got there like 20 minutes earlier, and I staged up before him. Dude, he almost fell over in the gate. That was his superstition. He had to be the first one in the chute. So I started messing with him and getting in the chute before him. And me and him was talking about it at the Grains. He goes, I don't really care anymore. But that used to mess me up.
Yeah. I mean, there's some people too that have that, the superstition. I mean, mine, there nothing really will mess me up necessarily, but there are rhythms in certain things. If I start to do something one way on a weekend, or I'll kind of tend to do that, try to do that same thing and not do something different. But generally it'll start just on the weekend, how if something felt comfortable doing something a certain way, that's kind of how I would do it. But I remember being so nervous before that amateur race, before they announced, like you said, before they announced that with a win and only a win, man, I was so nervous in the chute. I didn't know. Because I was racing I was young. So I was racing 17, 18. I was a 17-year-old. I was the year younger.
Mhm.
So I mean, there was plenty of kids that could have won, but yeah, I just knew I had to get a good gate and get out and go. And but I was so nervous. I remember that was one of the most nervous I'd ever been. That in the worlds when Elise was doing like her parade lap back around Rock Hill, and we sat on top of the hill. Gosh, that one, those two, man, I was the most nervous I'd ever been. But I mean, what do they say? If you're not nervous, you're not into it. That's part of the game. So
We'll get there. And I
you
think I
kinda
forgot that in his lead-in that you won the Worlds in Rock Hill that year after Elise did. You guys won Americans on home soil.
yeah.
So let's go back. Okay, you get the call from GT. You start riding for GT. How was all that started?
It started. Steve Spencer had called me. Guy had been around BMX forever. Loves BMX, and he was the manager at GT at the time. And I think he had Mike Day was riding for him, and yeah, he'd called me and was like, "Hey, yeah, we're gonna have something open up," and got the call from him, and that was awesome. And obviously with his connection with Mikey, and then they were connected with Red Bull. That was kind of how I got that as well too. I did the first year with GT, and that one went good. I'd won that World Cup in South Africa.
Mm-hmm.
And then by the end of that year, I think Steve had texted me and is like, "Hey, like you're going to get a pretty good call here soon." I'm like, "What?" And then, random one morning, he's like, "Yeah, somebody's going to call you." And the guy's name was Ryan Runke at the time, was the athlete manager at Red Bull, calls me, and I'm like, "No way." So rode for Red Bull for 2 years, the second year of GT, and then the first year of Haro. I had a 2-year contract with them. And then after that, they just pretty much dismantled the race program, and there hasn't been another American Red Bull racer since.
Oh wow! I guess I didn't realize that. So you didn't ride for GT that long then, did you?
No, 2 years.
And then so that was you had a shot at the Olympics on GT, didn't you?
Yes, in 2012. That was 2011, 2012.
And you broke your leg, correct?
Yeah, in August at the Worlds of 2011.
So, I mean, I know a lot of these teams at that time had like performance contracts. That's kind of the story. I don't mean to bring him up again, but Bubba kept coming back after injuries almost too soon and not healing because he had that performance contract that he couldn't miss so many races. And that's kind of, you could lose your contract if you didn't make it out to the shows if you were hurt. Did you have that in your contract? Is that why GT let you go at that time? Or did
No, not necessarily. No, not necessarily. I mean, I honestly don't really even know why. I think they probably were the same as anybody. They were just cutting budgets and cutting back, and
which they just did that again. Like GT just like they didn't say they closed down GT. They put GT bicycles on pause. Like they're selling out all the inventory. Did you know that?
No.
Yeah, like Planet BMX, that's a big mail order. They're buying all the shipment to sell handlebars and hubs. So GT bicycles like pause. They didn't really go out of business by who owns them, but they're pausing and not progressing on any, like, I think it's the whole GT bicycles, mountain bikes, BMX, street bicycles, everything. They've paused.
Yeah.
What they said is
they probably have so much stock. I mean, is a lot of things in the industry, from the COVID stuff, and they have a lot of companies ordered so much inventory when it was hard to get, that now all the factories are back to quotas and they have all this back stock they ordered. That's probably what's going on. I'm not really surprised by that.
Yeah. And then so now you're on Haro, and you were on that Haro team with some epic dudes too, weren't you?
Yeah, those were a couple really, really great years. I think DB was the manager at the time. Kalen was riding for him. Nick Long was riding for him. Brooke Crane was with us, and
I feel sorry for little Brooke Crane with that crew with Betcher, and Nick's calmed down a little bit, and Kalen, I seen he finally announced he's like fully retiring from the sport, and I don't think he's really calmed down, but how was that? Like, we know you. We've been to dinner. We've been to not your new house, but how did you and Kaylin, your personalities, did you click, or did you just be like, dude, this guy's crazy?
No, I have no problem really clicking with anybody, you know. I mean, I'm just, I guess, kind of shy, and not one to judge anybody. You know, everybody's got their own quirks, and everybody's their own way, you know. And
I didn't mean that to come out the wrong way, but I was always a huge Kaylin fan, huge Betcher fan, even when he had his Rev Tech, huge Nick Long fan, and of course we love Brooke Crane. So I mean, that was just like that was like a dream team right there. And some of them had Rockstar. Were you on Rockstar at that time, or
yeah?
So it was Harlow Rockstar on the whole thing. So yeah. So how many years did you ride for Harlow?
They were 2 years as well.
Okay. I forget, when you went to your first Olympics, were you riding for Harlow?
No.
Okay.
Or no, I did 3 years at Harrow. I think one I kind of took over Kaylin's deal, and then I got 2 years after that. So it might have been 3. So I did 13, 14, and 15. Yeah, it was 3 years at Harrow.
But not the Olympics.
What's up?
Not, you did your first, because you've been to 2 Olympics, right?
Yeah.
And after, so give us a crazy on the road Harrow story that you can without throwing anybody under the bus. There's got to be some stories
Corben
there.
Just kind of stayed to himself.
Yeah. I think Corben just like I'm friends with Jerry Horton, the guitarist from Papa Roach. I go and work on his car, and like, you want to hear these rock star stories. And my one friend came, and he's like, dude, you guys were at my house in Missouri one time after a show, and we partied. And he's like, well, it wasn't me. He goes, it was probably, 2 of the other guys. He says, because 2 of us were married with like kids. So we went to have dinner, and we went to the hotel. We weren't the partiers. So.
No, there were so many good times on that with that crew. But one of the best was one of our trips to Ohio Dreams. You remember that? Did you ever go to that place?
I did. We had a couple riders that did.
Gosh, Ohio Dreams. It was so much fun. A ton of fun. But we were supposed to be there, like doing, I don't know if we were supposed to be doing clinics but I know it was like a stop on, like, we had to stop somewhere to be able to stay. But I think DB had booked like, hey, we'll come like help some kids or like do some clinics or something at the little track. And they didn't really have a track really you could ride. It was kind of crazy. But the trails were running okay. The skate park we were racers though, they had the skate park going on. So, and there really wasn't a track. So there really wasn't anybody to teach. It was just like, we were kind of just staying there, hanging out. So we really didn't do much, but hang out and party, and ended up on the slide, like one of the nights in the middle of the night, going off that big old slide. And we're out there in the middle of the night, jumping off that thing. Ended up skinny dipping into this thing. We're all freaking going down this thing, and it was dude, that was so much fun. But like, we didn't end up really coaching anybody. We were just kind of partying the whole time we were there, not really doing much, but hanging out, which I guess, for me, it was super cool. And yeah, we'd just hang out in the skate park and mess with the skate kids, scooter kids, and just have a good time. That was super fun on that team.
So when you guys were skinny dipping, this was like at night, right? So all the kids were in bed, so there's no like
middle of the night. Yeah, this was
child charges against you guys or nothing like that.
Yeah, no, they were all back. They were all in the cabin.
Okay, so after Harrow, what comes along after Harrow?
And then that was daylight would be 2016 till last year. So yeah, 16 was the start of daylight, and pretty much the bulk of, I guess, my career really is professional.
So at what point did you decide or think that you needed to try to become an Olympian?
I don't know. I know when I went to the trials in 2008, the first ever one, and I'll be honest, I got there early, and looked at the track, and I was like, these guys do not race this track. I'm like, there's no way anybody rides this thing on a BMX bike. No way. And it was new, you know, I had never seen it, and I didn't really there wasn't a ton of YouTube or like videos of people riding. It was just like you heard of people riding at the training center, and, you know, now they're going to have this trials and they're qualifying. So I was like, we got there and I'm like, they are not riding this track. And I think Chris Fox was one of the first ones. He came out and did the first straight, and I was like, whoa, that's crazy.
Super talented rider.
Yeah. And even then I didn't have a clue. Like that wasn't, it still felt like it was out of my realm. You know, I was like, this is not, I don't know if I can ride this. And it was a pretty short time till I was riding it. Honestly, I think I was riding it the next year in 2009, but like at that time, at that moment, I was like, yeah, it wasn't like, yeah, I'm going to the next Olympics. You know, I'm going to watch these guys, because I'd never ridden that track. I seen that and I'm like, I don't know. That's nuts. That's crazy.
And that's kind
and
of.
I did start. I did start, in, like I said, the next year in 2009. Mike King invited me out there, and we did want to kind of like I don't even know what the camp was called back then. There was no like designation. It was just a camp. It was just, you know, there was a BMX camp at the center, and you did have to be invited. So I just knew that I got invited and was going to ride down there with Donnie and Mikey and Kyle and the guys that were on the team and or fixing to make the long team and all that. Or no, the Olympics had already ran, so they already had medals and were real big and known and all that. So that was cool. And I was like, yeah, we'll go ride with those guys. It'll be sweet. And even at that time, I didn't hardly ever even know. I didn't really think like, yeah, I'm making the games. You know, that's a huge goal of mine. And I'll be honest, it never really was like, you know, that's my number one priority was making the games. Like my priority always is and was, and I just wanted to win whatever race I was going to enter next. What race I knew I could go to was what I wanted to do. It was like, okay, if I'm going to Reno next weekend, you know, that was my focus. Was I wanted to go race Reno and be the best guy there. And I kind of knew, like I did know there was a qualifying sequence to make the games in like, say, like 2011 when I'd won that World Cup, and I'd got my feet wet then and knew I had developed into being one of the best guys in the world. You know, I knew it was a possibility. I'm like, yeah, it's definitely possible to make that 2012 games. Because at that time, you know, when I broke my leg at the Worlds, I was pretty much number one in the world other than winning the Worlds.
Oh, I forgot. When you broke your leg on GT, that was at the Worlds?
That was at the World Championships. Yeah, I'd won that World Cup before that. And I think there was one other one. So like I was top 3 in the world at that point. And, you know, it was like, it kind of all was becoming a reality, you know, but I was still racing, you know, for the next race. You know, that was just how I knew how to do it. And I always did. And I was not one to get ahead of myself, you know, like, yeah, the games is next year. That's a huge goal. You know, I wanted to make as much money as I could, and you had to win races to do that. So, you know, it kind of goes in line with like the hot rod stuff and all that. You know, you needed money to do that stuff. So it was like, hey, and I was good at racing BMX, and what I wanted to do was win. You know, there wasn't really like, hey, if you made the Olympics, you were making $100,000 or you were making $1 million, you know, that wasn't really what I was thinking. You know, like I said, I was going race to race, and as it came closer, you know, it was like, okay, that was one of the goals you kind of had to think about and write down. Was like, okay, I can make it. It definitely was a goal, but it wasn't just like, hey, I want to be an Olympian. It just, when it finally did happen in 2016, it was just, it came to fruition from hard work and just success I'd had on the track, and really just being earned and not being like, that was what I was focusing on, was being that. It was just kind of came from winning.
Do you remember watching the live feed? We were at Roadkill in Detroit, a drag race event. Carrie was running, and I was up there, and we were watching it. And I still remember the feeling, how happy we were for you when you qualified. Carrie broke down and cried. We were so happy for our buddy Corben making the first Olympics. And yeah, we still remember I got goosebumps thinking about that, because
Yeah,
It
it was
like we're
Yeah.
we were running the very first ever roadkill drag races. We shut down Woodward Avenue, and there's all these people and all this stuff. We brought in, I don't even know how much K-wall to build a track,
Mhm.
and there's all these people covered around the TV watching BMX.
because you had a couple BMX people there with helping too, didn't you?
I don't think so.
No? Okay.
Chelsea was there just because I
yeah, it
talked
was
about it so much that
Yeah.
everybody.
yeah,
was,
that was awesome.
yeah.
And yeah, I missed my sister's wedding to race that darn trials race, and it's hard, man. It's hard to make that stuff. It's so tough, and I had so many even leading into that one in 2012 when I didn't make it, and because yeah, that year of 11 when I broke my leg, I broke my femur, and a lot of people don't know is when I came back to start racing the World Cups when I could the next year, I dislocated the opposite hip
Oh.
the week before the World Cup in Chula. So I broke the femur. I came back. I dislocated the opposite hip the weekend before the World Cup, and I raced the World Cup after being in the hospital from having to get my hip put back in.
Oh, geez.
Oh my God.
So there was a lot that went in before
What pain was
2012,
that?
and it was just literally by the grace of God that I even had a shot to race the trials
Mhm.
for that one too. And even then, I think that was when they had that London track with the crossover and all that. And even coming into then after those two injuries, like, dude, I was going as fast as I ever did. I was the best in the world at that time. And I got to practice in London, and in 2012, I went as the alternate. And I mean, if, ands, or buts, I was ready, whether something happened or not. And I felt like I could have done great at that one too. But yeah, I was able and ready. And that one at the trials, I had in that main, I could have won that one. I cramped. From when I dislocated the hip, I don't know if it like cut something was going on. I was having troubles with like some, not blood vessels, but like, I think it severed some of like the bloodlines and stuff. So doing a lot of effort. And I think that trials too was a ton of laps. So we were on like the 7th lap or something by the end. And I cramped like the second crank out of the gate because I'd won every lap pretty much till that final where I'd cramped and Connor ended up winning and going. But yeah, then I was ready. I was going as fast as I ever could. But yeah, struggled with that. And same kind of going into the 2016 when I had to race that trials and I did make it. I technically was on top of the point, supposed that when Nick got the podium in Colombia, I was supposed to go, and I was in qualifying position to make the main. Nick was behind me. I slid out in the semi, and he came around, qualified for the main, and then the next stipulation was he had to get a podium, and he was like 6th or 7th or something like that in that final when I think they wrecked in the last corner, and he came around and got 3rd, and he got the first spot for 16. So there was a lot that went into, both years for 12, 16, a lot of them, there was a lot of craziness that went on. So leading into even having to race the trials in 16 was kind of tough, but it all came to fruition and kind of played out how it was supposed to be. And I couldn't be any more grateful for what unfolded.
So how is it when you get the Olympics? We're BMX sports people. We don't watch any other sports on TV. We go to some hockey games in Nashville sometimes. We watch drag racing, BMX, Indy cars. That's Supercross. But when the Olympics is on, we'll watch the most random sports in the Olympics. I don't know what it is. We will watch it all as the TV. Just love the Olympics. How is it the first time going in the Olympic Village and going to eat with Team USA, and just explain that feeling?
It's a hard one to explain, and I don't know to say it humbles you, but it definitely, it definitely humbles you because of the presence you're in of like, you just kind of, you just feel, you get the vibe of you're where the best athletes in the world are regardless of what you do, you know, and it kind of puts it in perspective of like I don't know. It puts it all into perspective of like how not great you are, but just you're among some of the greatest athletes there are in the world, no matter what sport there is. And there's a lot of them, you know, you don't think how many different athletes are some of the best at what they do, but when you get to the games and you kind of feel that vibe and everybody's there, you know, to accomplish, to win a medal, because you're not, I mean, that's not something you can just go sign up on the weekend for USA BMX. You know, you earned your way to get there.
Yeah.
And everybody's there. Everybody there.
The worlds and watching the worlds, you have to qualify to get to the worlds, but this is another level. Like,
yeah, it's like,
but at the 2 years you went, how many men and how many girls went? Was there two girls the first?
Two, I think, yeah, Rio, two men went, or no, 3 men.
3 men and 2
there was
girls,
3,
I think, right?
3 and 3, and then the next one I think it was 2 and 3. There was 2 of us, 2 men and 3 girls.
Yeah, out of the whole country. That's just
Crazy.
It's just crazy of all the amazing riders that are in this country to me it would make me feel like, oh man, my hard work really finally paid off. You know, I'm in a couple Hall of Fames in the hot rod world, not the BMX world, the hot rod world, and then I get to announce races, and sometimes I look around and it's like, man, how did I get here? You know, all that hard work and all them late nights and everything in the shop, it's a different thing. I'm obviously not training and doing that but you know, you put your hard work in and you see some of that come to fruition, or however you say that big fancy word that you use. It's kind of like, oh wow, this is what I always wanted to do. And like, I ran into some random dude one day. Well, he was our bug sprayer guy, and he's like, I was home for lunch and he's here at the house spraying, and he goes, so what do you do? I'm like, oh, I build hot rods. And I say, I do race announcing. And he stopped and he goes, oh, so you followed your dreams. And I was like, I never really thought about that. And I've said that in a few things I do, announcing and speeches and banquets and stuff at the SEMA show. I was like, I say that, and it's like, wow, it's like, you kind of think about it that way. It's kind of makes you feel weird.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So, okay, what year was it you went to? Was it the last Olympics that you went to? And then you went on a UCI streak and like won a few in a row, and that was the year you won the UCI overall World Cup title, right?
No, that was after the first one.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
That was after 16.
Yeah, you went on kind of a World Cup. You didn't lose a few there, did you?
No, I think I won the rest. I won from the Olympics through the rest of the year. I won all the World Cups throughout till the end.
And then
which is a ton, but that's when I think we raced 2 days or something each one. It was
the competition at the World Cups, if people don't know, it's pretty much the people that show up to the Olympics.
Yeah.
It's the same. So you went to 2 Olympics. What was your best finish at the Olympics?
9th.
9th? You tied.
Yeah.
Because somebody else got 9th too, right?
Yeah.
Because there's only 8 in the
I guess technically, yeah. You would to distinguish 9th and 10th would go off time. So technically 5th and the semi would be 9th. Yeah.
You got 5th in the semi.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rub it in, Tim.
Well, we don't really do semis there, right? Because they run more than one lap with semis, don't they? Do they not? I don't remember. They run some kind of program at the Olympics, don't they?
Yeah, but it's still like the same. It's a semi. I just call it a semi still. You just run. It's basically like running 3 motos, but it's a semi to make the main.
So you won a lot of stuff in your career, like I mentioned before. Well, let's go. Yeah, so let's go on for you when you won the world championship in Rock Hill that year.
That was awesome.
That was there. We were there. It was incredible. Carrie got semied, or did you get quartered?
No, I made it out of my quarters.
You got semied.
Yeah, I got
Yeah,
semied.
she made it to her semis. I'm just cheering. I was sitting in the stands with my Sharrah shirt, and when the pros were practicing, and I got called out by Redmond, and he goes, "Hey, Strange, what are you doing down there?" He's on the microphone. He's like, "Who are you rooting for?" And I stood up and showed him my Sharrah shirt, and yeah, he couldn't show favoritism, but I think on the inside he was cheering for Sharrah too. So how does
Yeah.
that feel? You go into the worlds on home soil and end up winning, like you say, right after Elise, another amazing American racer. How did that feel winning the world championship?
That that one was amazing. That was probably one of the best days of my racing career was that day. It was hard. I remember the hardest thing though, like I said, was sitting on that hill because Elise had won, and then I'm like, oh well, I need to go win now too. So,
No pressure.
And
but
you like Rock Hill
but
has
it
been
kind of goes back to
for a lot of years. You've done very well through the years at Rock Hill.
yeah, Rock. That's kind of one of my best tracks, is I would say. And I would say it feels like home. You know, one of my aunts on my mom's side lives like 45 minutes from there. So I can kind of go whenever I need to, but it just kind of feels like home. You know, the people have always been great since we started going there. And it's always felt like a homey place to me and somewhere I was real comfortable. So it was cool to get the worlds there that year in 17. And I'd put in a lot of work getting that place kind of dialed in and ready to go, knowing everything was coming to the States. And it was hot that day too. It was so hot, I remember. And I remember I was started to cramp like after the quarter, and I'm like, oh my gosh, don't do it. Don't do it. So I was like I was fighting, cramping up, and then having to sit on top of that hill before the main. And man, I was just praying as much as I could that everything was going to go and I wasn't going to cramp up that second crank. Because generally, if I made it down the hill, I wasn't really going to cramp the rest of the track. Because I'd flipped down the hill cramping the second crank multiple times. So I was just praying that was going to go well. And yeah, everything did. And that was just a magical day, really. That was, like I said, probably one of the best days of my racing career was that day.
Yeah,
and
we had
I remember Spider-Man running with the flag across the stands. And man, and that was one of the races where, like, generally I don't hear anything when I'm on the track. Like, you can't hear, but you could feel and hear the crowd stomping the stands, and like how nuts it got when I was out front doing laps around there. And every lap from qualifiers all the way through, it was absolute chaos. And it was one of the ones, like I said, I could feel it on the track, and it was pretty cool.
Yeah, we got to stand while you were getting your award on the stage. We got to stand beside Nikki, your wife, and it was.
That's one of my favorite pictures that I have. Is
pretty cool.
You guys hugging over, I think, the fence or the whatever was there. Yeah, that was pretty awesome.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. So by hearing him say that, of all the things that you've won, you've had an amazing career. Your career's not done yet. Is the world's what you think is your little cherry right now that you have? Is that like your favorite? So would you trade? What are they on the coffee chatter guys? They said, would you trade a world championship for a gold medal? Would you change is your world title bigger than if you would win a USA BMX title?
Yes and no, I guess. I mean, I love that. And honestly, you know, getting a little off track here, but being a dad and a family man, I think the kids take the title of any title I've ever won racing a bicycle. And I don't know if it's that mind shift a little bit. Mm-hmm. Obviously, I'm still hungry to win a USA BMX title and would love a gold medal and any other race wins.
So you are 32 now. Mm-hmm. Do you know how old Stumpy was when he won his last title?
33. Yeah.
Yep. Just saying.
I do.
Hey, Corben, I love him. Remember that time you said you want me to go see you win a lap? I want to go see you win the title this year. Yeah.
Yeah. But no, I mean, it's hard to say what you would trade something for, you know, something that is theoretical that I don't have. You know, I'll cherish anything I have, and I don't really ever ponder on like, man, would I trade that for that? You know, it's
because we
what I earned
is what I earned. Stuff that you've done. There is 1,000 riders right now that would trade their whole career for just being able to go to one Olympics or going to a World Cup even and making a main at a World Cup. So your career you've had is, like I say, it's a Hall of Fame career and you're not done yet. So before we go into what you're doing now and who you're riding for, let's talk about the kids and the family. So
We can talk about cars. We got to talk about cars
That's-
first. Because
so Corben,
when the first kid came in, we knew more about the car.
when Grayson was born, I think Ricky texted, "Hey, the baby's born." So I text you to congrats, and then a few minutes later, I see the little 3 dots. Da, 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 da. And I'm like, "Oh, he's sending me a picture of the baby." No, I think you're still at the hospital. I get a video of your new LS motor running in your Corvette, and and it's like I didn't get a thing from the baby, and I joked with him. I go, "No picture of the baby," and jokingly, as car people, you're like, "Well, it took me longer to put this motor together than it did of the 9 months that she was pregnant." Hopefully, Nikki doesn't hear that.
Oh, she knows.
Yeah. So yeah. So
Yeah, no.
you've had some fast cars, and you kind of got a little hot rod in your blood too, don't you?
Oh yeah, absolutely, for sure. And that's kind of a passion of mine, that I love just as much as BMX racing is race cars, hot rods, anything loud makes anything that's loud makes noise, goes fast, and looks cool. I mean, that's kind of my thing.
Why am I blank on his name?
Dylan?
Yeah, Dylan Vaughn was also into hot rods, and I sold him some truck parts and stuff. So was that something you guys kind of did some hot rod shit together to get a little break from the BMX stress, or was that just what kids do? I mean,
it's just what kids do. I mean, to be more honest, even though Ricky's farther, like we kind of stayed more in touch. Ricky and I did about hot rods and things like that than Dylan did. I got so busy with racing and flying and doing all that crazy stuff, and Dylan was doing his thing. And, he got into doing, I think he had what was his truck, a 69 or 70? He got into doing, and he had that Nova. He got into doing some welding and doing stuff like that. But no, I still was so busy. I didn't really I tinkered with him a few times, but yeah, I think we're all still kind of connected and stuff through hot rods and BMX. That's kind of just what's brought everybody together. And
and Gork at the Hall of Fame Museum, he's going to work on a thing and have some input from me and a couple of my other guys of the connection to the hot rod world to BMX. A lot of BMXers, especially my generation, are in the hot rod industry. I mean, Chip Foose raced as a kid. Larry Dixon raced as a kid. Zane Cullen, Daryl Hollenbeck, a lot of like Hall of Fame hot rod builders, they had BMX. Like Daryl Hollenbeck rode for Factory Panda. There's a picture on the Hall of Fame wall with him in the team. Like his mom was Panda team manager back in the 70s. I mean, so yeah, the tie from hot rods and BMX goes way back.
So one of the things that we ask all of our hot rod guys is, what was your first car? So what was your first car?
Ooh, it was an import, and
he knows everything about his bike.
Yeah.
A first car. So I posted a picture today from the Mecum auction.
I've seen that.
Of my first car was a Chevette.
There's a Chevette that sold on a Mecum auction today that brought $30,000 for a Chevette. It's like, oh my goodness. So what was your first car?
It was a 1996 Nissan 240 SX.
Was it stock, or did you have wheels? Or
No, not stock at all. I had an imported SR20 motor, wheels, full custom turbo kit. I mean, it was.
Is that when we started hanging out with Ricky? Is that the car you had? Because I remember you had a turbo car. Was that the car you had at that time? Or
no, I had a Subaru. I had a WRX STI.
Okay. And then what other hot rods did you have? Some of my hot rod buddies are going to give me a hard time for calling a Subaru a hot rod.
They probably are, yeah. And then I kind of started, import stuff, and that was kind of what was going on. And I guess my hood at the time was like the guys were doing import stuff. So that's kind of, but we were still, like I said, I had an imported motor. We were doing custom turbo kits and fabricating stuff. It wasn't like it was just just stock or like buying stuff from Pet Boys. It was, it was handmade stuff. So,
Did
I
you
mean,
ever
really
go,
the
did you
first
ever
hot
drag
rod I
race?
had.
Tucson has a great drag strip. Did you ever go out and run it down the corner?
None of the imports. No, I ended up running the second Z06 I had, the black one I got that we built when Grayson was born. I ran that one down. That was the first one I ever took it down, and that was fun.
And then you don't have any hot rod type cars right now, do you?
No, the kids have consumed me.
You can like put a turbo on
Minivan.
a Tahoe or a Suburban or something like that, right? Yeah, you can turbo your minivan.
I mean, that's one of the things that you always announce at the autocross on Sundays. People
Yeah.
can bring their minivans
Boyd-
out as long as it's American made.
Famous hot rod builder Boyd Coddington built a badass mini tubbed Dodge minivan for Mopar for the SEMA show one year.
Oh,
I think they put
that is cool.
I think they put a Viper motor in it or something like that. Yeah, it was crazy. So
Yeah, I mean, Morley, what we have now is most of the vehicles are diesels. They have turbos. I mean, the Yukon has a turbo 3-liter inline six, and then I have a Cummins turbo 12-valve truck.
So in the future, do you have a plan of I know one answer, but would you like another hot rod, and what would you like it to be?
I do. I think my dream would probably be between I would like a modern chassis, something with disc brakes and coil suspension, and something that has like a vet chassis with probably a 67 to 69 body on it would probably be something I would want. A little modern interior.
Where there was a stalled first gen Camaro, and you were like, "Oh, give me some prices on that," and then that was maybe baby number 2 came along after that, maybe. So let's talk about the kids then. Here we're kind of been going over here for a while, so
that's because we had such technical difficulties.
Yeah, we had a little technical difficulty. So let's talk a little bit about the kids before we talk about the new gig.
Yeah, there are 3 boys. Grayson 6, Callan's 3, and we have a new one that is 10 months that just started walking.
I've seen that video you posted. Yeah, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, he's walking and he's chasing the other 2, wanting to wrestle and fight and throw stuff and push race cars and sling Hot Wheels through the tracks and do whatever they're doing. And they've been racing. Grayson got a, what do you call those? The slot cars.
Oh,
his grandma got him some Kyle Larson and William Byron, 2 Chevy NASCAR racers. She got him the slot car track. So we've been doing that. And yeah, my oldest he's racing, and he's 6 expert and kind of following what dad's doing. And he loves hot rods and race cars too. I've been taking him to the NASCAR race in Phoenix, both for the spring and the championship twice a year since he was, I think, 3.
You're a Kyle Larson fan, right?
What was that?
You're a Kyle Larson fan, right?
I am. My son's he's taken to, since I run the number 24, he likes William Byron, who also is 24. So
yeah, I'm a fan. I don't watch a lot of NASCAR, but I'm a fan of Kyle Larson because I was a fan of Tony Stewart and AJ Foyt, which has recorded this today. It's AJ Foyt's 90th birthday. And
I heard that.
Kyle Larson is that modern generation. You put him in anything. He's running the Chili Bowl in the Grands building in Tulsa, Oklahoma this weekend. And he's coming back to the Indy 500 again this year too. So I'm a big fan of Kyle Larson. I think he could just drive he's just a driver. He's just a wheel man. You put him in and he's going to figure out how to win. I'm a
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And that's why I'm a fan of Larson too. I've always have been since way back, since I don't even know how long, but since he was a young kid, watching him race some of the Xfinity and even coming up, the dude could just drive anything. And yeah, Grayson started loving him. He started, and then, like I said, I think he's seen that the number 24 on the car and was just like, my dad runs that, so I like him. Who drives that car? I like that guy.
Yeah.
And no, he loves it, man. He wants to drive cars bad. So just kind of, I have him racing in the meantime till I got him a little simulator set up with some pedals and a wheel, and got him doing some of the NASCAR sim stuff. So hopefully he'll
So the
do
question
something.
is, in the future, are we going to keep racing BMX, or are you going to offer, hey man, we can get a junior dragster to go drag racing, or do you want to get a go-kart and start doing roundy round? Have you thought about that process yet?
A little bit of it, yeah. I think he wants. I don't know if he wants to do the dragster thing. He wants to turn.
Yeah.
But he likes the dirt racing. We've been watching the Chili Bowl, so
Yeah.
he's been super into that.
I want to go to that.
There's a dirt track here in town, but there's also an asphalt. They'll run like asphalt. I don't even know what you call them. Not the bandoleros, but it's like a little. I don't even know if it's an 1/8 mile, but it's right off the freeway. They run those in town too. So I was going to take him out there and see what he wanted to do, but yeah, he really, really loves cars, loud, and he wants to.
BMX bikes are way cheaper than things that have to have motors in them. Way cheaper.
Oh yeah, I know, but there's a lot bigger future in something where you could turn the wheel, press the gas pedal.
Yeah. I think it's a lot of steps to get to that upper level, but in roundy round stuff, there's different upper levels.
Mhm.
Like there's guys running the Chili Bowl that are making a great, they're winners and championships. They're doing good. And even if they never make it to NASCAR, they're still doing good. And, same thing with if you don't make it to the NASCAR let and you just go to Infinity or something, or sprint cars and stuff. I love sprint cars too. So, yeah.
Yeah,
So,
same
okay.
here. I mean, I love it all. And I love the aspect of all of it. The fabrication, building it. Everything that kind of goes into it is.
So your house you're in now, that's what maybe some of your BMX fans don't know what you do when you're not on your bike, is you like remodeled and flipped a home or two. And this house you built, right? Brand new.
Yeah. Yeah. This one was from literally desert to what it is now, a huge house. But yeah, I kind of probably do too much outside of being an athlete, but that was kind of how I grew up. I grew up getting my hands dirty. My dad was a nurse by trade, but he was he did a lot of construction work, and I worked a lot with him doing stucco, everything, plumbing. He has a lot of rentals and just upkeep and doing all that. So I kind of learned how to do a lot of things as a kid, and he built our family home. And that was kind of a goal of mine always was, to build the family home for whenever I had a family. So yeah, I flipped a house or two, and we sold our house that we lived in and purchased 5 acres. And I got a big loader that we rebuilt the track with and cleared the land and graded it and built it from the ground up.
And you got a big garage too, don't you?
Yes. Yeah, the garage is it's pretty much a barn, not a barn dominium, but like that. Yeah, the garage is half of the house.
So there's room for a hot rod someday, or a go-karts or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the goal. I would love for us to have something to be in there wrenching, welding, tinkering, doing something on something is definitely the goal down the road. Yeah, there's not a 2,400 square foot garage for nothing.
So you talked about the dirt work. So let's talk about that. You do the rebuilds at the local track, and then you have that you offer that a service that people can hire you to come rebuild their track, right?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And that formed from when I was a young kid too. I had literally been shoveling dirt since I was 3 years old. Mm-hmm. And we always had the jumps at my parents' house that they were shovel and tractor, but I'd been running a skid steer since I was like 6 and building at the house.
The first time that I drove a skid steer, I worked for a sheep farm. Insert your own joke here. And I remember they're like, go get the skid steer. And I remember this skid steer, it had the 2 T handles that you had to twist circuit, the one twisted and then the feet did the other. And I had to back it out of the building, and I couldn't go very straight. And it started to turn, and there was a big drop off. I almost flipped the skid steer the very first time I drove. And my dad worked part-time with this guy too. And him and the boss, they're just sitting there laughing at me. And I think I pissed myself. I about died. And I was probably 14 the first time I drove a skid steer. So yeah.
Yeah, they get pretty rowdy for sure.
Dude, you ever went to a supercross motocross event?
Amazing.
I'm gonna see if I can plug this computer in real fast. It's dying. Got it. Yeah, I have.
You go to a live Supercross, it's just as amazing to watch the guys in the intermission smooth the track out and stuff like that. Man, those work guys, they're pretty incredible.
They are fun to watch.
Yeah,
that is fun.
You have a business name for that. What is that called?
It's called Creed Earthworks.
Okay, so if you want
CREAD.
Say that again.
CREAD.
So if you need anybody to come to your local track and rebuild it, hit up Corben. So let's talk about the new bike you're on. Let's talk about that.
It is that one I started last year called Divine Bicycle Company. And it kind of stemmed same, I've always had that kind of fabricator's mind. I've always been intrigued with different bikes and things like that and how they're made and yada, yada, yada with everything, and I've always kind of dreamed of building my own bike, how I wanted it, everything from how things were milled on the CNC to the tubing to the geometries. I was always intrigued and yeah, kind of the opportunity arose where it was like, yeah, I could do my own thing here. It was kind of at the road where it was like, I either do this or kind of try to get other sponsors and keep riding for somebody else's brand. And I think I've developed enough wherewithal and knowledge and been lucky of people around me. One of my good friends, Robbie Spaniard, he's a what kind of engineer is he? He works for Raytheon. Gosh darn it. Why did I just blank on what it is? Geez, it's not structural. What do you call that, Tim? Do you know?
No, I'm blank. I'm trying to help you out here, but yeah. Anyway, he's an engineer.
He's an engineer. And yeah, we kind of spoke and talked about, this has kind of been floating around for a little while, even the last few years, making parts and kind of joking like, hey, I can design the parts in CAD and whatever, and we can just turn them. But yeah, the frame thing rose and I hit him up and I'm like, dude, like, let's do this bike thing. And kind of just started, not really as a joke, but like a little bit as a joke. And then the opportunity got to where it could get serious. So I'm like, hey, like, let's do this thing. So, yeah, Divine came about and it was one of the things that I was really proud to announce and be able to do. And I think we can kind of transform a little bit of not the bike industry, but kind of how things are made with being completely custom and having some of the best finishes. And there'll be some of the best artwork, I think, on bikes that have ever been produced. Obviously Ricky did some great works with Daylight, but I think there's still some things that we're going to be able to do with this brand that
was Ricky painting all of them?
Going to be amazing.
Is Ricky small? Cool. Does Ricky know this, that he's going to have to paint all this?
Yeah. No. And we spoke about it a bit. He's obviously going to do a lot of the super high-end custom. Mm-hmm. But as far as right now, depending on when we fully launch and get going, how many pre-orders and how many things are just kind of a 2-color, just pretty easy, basic going, or how much stuff is really high dollar, high end that he needs to do. We'll see about putting a sub in to kind of do some of the more basic work for him. So
it blows my
haven't
mind
gotten that far, but
how good he has learned to do the engine turning. Because like when I engine turn stuff on a hot rod, it's usually like a flat panel, and it still stresses me out getting it all even and straight and everything. And how he does a whole BMX frame, it's like, does a good job. I'm giving you.
And if you see how it's on,
that's right.
Yeah. So we're super excited, and it's coming together good. It's definitely a little bit more of a waiting process than I had anticipated it being. Just waiting for custom tubing to get done that is hydroformed and things like that. Waiting for that to get here, and just kind of finalizing like, okay, this is what I want. You have everything in CAD, and then you kind of go over it, and it's like, well, do I want it like this? This could be a little better. Take a little bit off there, this, and just tweaking things. So just taking a little more time, making sure that everything is spot on and there's really no hiccups, that pretty much when the product's launched, it's going to be the best product there is out there. So
Are they
been working hard on that. And
welded in America?
yeah, they'll be made in Arizona. So everything pretty much will
awesome.
be
Very cool. How
will
many
be within a few
frame
hours.
sizes are you going to offer at start?
It's going to be pretty much all of them. I mean, we had a meeting with the builder last week and he was pretty intrigued to do pretty much anything, so, I mean, if there's something somebody wants in mind, to where they wanted 1 or 2, even 3 of something that was completely custom of some certain geometry they wanted, it's like, hey, we'll work something out and figure that out. But yeah, it'll be from micro all the way up to triple as big as you can get it, whatever you can dream up, we'll be able to do it. So that's what I'm super stoked about, is we'll be able to offer a wide array of pretty much what anybody would need.
Very cool. Yeah, we're really psyched. And when we learned that, you texted me one time. It's like, hey man, on a down low, this is what I'm doing, and you sent me a CAD thing of it. It's like, oh my god, this is pretty awesome. So yeah, we're psyched for you, even though we still ride chromoly bikes, but
that's all right.
I
can make a chromoly bike. That's not a problem at all. Yeah, the builder, he was like, hey, make some chromoly. We can make a super light chromoly bike. It'll be just as light. And I'm like, I can't race. I'm not racing chromoly. I'm like, I've got to race aluminum.
Yeah, I'm not aluminum guy. I'm an old guy. Hey, the cats are fighting. Quit that.
But yeah, that was cool. And I mean, for this year,
when will frames start being available?
It'll probably be late spring. I would say probably sometime in April is kind of the main goal for now. If it takes a little longer than that, then it will. I would say, yeah, probably late spring, early summer, April, May will be
awesome
when things are available. Working on the site and getting everything there now. I want to get it to where you can kind of play with the colors a little bit. Like the custom stuff you'll have to kind of email or talk to. Mm-hmm. But I want to play with some colors where it'll kind of be like anime. You can change the frame and kind of see what it looks like in a different color and all that. We'll launch something like that, and gonna get some swag and stuff ready too. Kind of that stuff in the works for a nice clothing line for the brand, and kind of gonna do like an online store as well too, where you can build like a complete custom bike on the Divine bicycles, and I'll be able to build that bike in house, and you'll get a pretty much custom bike all in one place. So that'll be sweet.
Awesome.
So that sparks another question before we wrap up on the bike frame company. When you talk about building bikes, as a little kid, like we got our BMX girl, Lily Campbell. We've sponsored her since she's 8. She's going to college. She's just turned 21, nag rider.
Are you picking on Lily?
She can't really work on her bike. Were you a kid when you were little? Did your dad keep wrenching on your bike, or could you do all the stuff on your bike?
No, I pretty much took over from when I was little kid.
Yeah, I like.
But he did show me. I mean, I was shown a lot, but I did take over and do a lot myself.
Yeah, we were talking to Peyton Ridenour, and she's like, I know just the basics. Like if my bike has to be put in a bike bag, I take the absolute littlest apart and I can put the wheel. It's just barely. And I always have somebody check it. It's like, Dad, because her dad's pretty awesome. I go, Dad, you need to teach this girl how to wrench on her bikes. And he goes,
yeah,
I'm a mechanic. So
yeah, I know. My dad taught me how to build wheels when I was little, and kind of taught me everything from then on. And I remember one of the last times he wrenched on it, he forgot to put the master link in the chain, and he just put the chain together, like just put it together with the chain tool, and I snapped the chain right out of the gate. I was so mad. That was one of the last times I let him work on my bike, I think, honestly. I broke the chain and I was like, no more.
Yeah. Kind of like I don't really let Tim work on my bike.
Yeah, she doesn't. Well, she doesn't work on hers anyway, but Lily Campbell, she went to a national 2 years ago in Atlanta, and she forgot to tighten her pedals when she came out of the gate. Her pedal fell off, and she stopped on the gate, and then it fell down under the gate.
Down in the gate,
and she stopped on this first jump and turned around and looked. Like we didn't know what was going on. We thought that like somebody hit her bike as she came out of the gate, and I think she looked like she was going to fight somebody. And it's like she goes, I just had no idea what to do. I couldn't ride my bike away. I had no pedal on my bike. So we give her, and then Grindle was there, so Grindle always gives her a hard time when she's on the track. Hopefully her pedals are tight this time. She's like,
Oh no.
yeah,
She didn't know what to do. She just stood there.
Yeah, even Miss Kitty was like, "What are you doing, girl?" Yeah. So tell
Jeez.
everybody where you can find the info on the new bicycle company.
For now, it'll be on that Divine Bicycles on Instagram, and then the
Tell them how to spell
website
it because we were spelling it
We were
wrong.
spelling it wrong.
DIVINE Bicycles.
Okay, give it a follow.
That's the Instagram. Give that one a follow, and
And
then
your personal Instagram.
my personal Instagram is Sharrah24.
So we wrap this up. Is there any last thank yous? Always thank your wife. Any
Shout outs.
Yeah, any shout outs, anything you want to give?
Not necessarily. Yeah, obviously, thank my wife Nicole for always standing behind me through everything: broken legs, dislocations, surgeries, everything. Losing rides, getting rides, dreams, everything is because of her. So I can't thank her enough. And obviously, my parents, my family, my brother Jacob, obviously him. I mean, I really wouldn't be where I'm at without him. You know, he was my best friend. I mean, still is was a kid, you know, growing up building jumps together, and we rode together for a long time. So, I mean, big shout out to him for being there for my career, and same with my family, taking me around, kind of showing me the door where I'm at now. So, got to thank all them, family, everybody. Ricky White, that guy, thanks for coming in, showing me a few things, all these things on building stuff and just some ways of life, and just all the good friends out there, the Vaughns, everybody in the BMX and all the other communities, you know, you guys, and just for creating an outlet for, I mean, both sides, you know, the hot rod world, BMX, and just everybody that's connected everybody in life. I just thankful for all you guys.
Anything else from you, Carrie?
No, I'm just saying that we know that there's still a lot left in Corben Sharrah, and we can't wait to watch it.
Yeah, 2025 will be awesome. It'll be cool. There's definitely some great
BMX
things
is usually, you know, we still get people who like, you still ride little kids' bikes. Well, they don't understand if they've never been that, you know, the last age cut's 65 and over. And it's weird that, you know, it used to be like the fast pros were 25 to 27 and they kind of petered out. But like the generation that we have now, we have you and Elise and Lauren Reynolds, and you guys are in your 30s and still at the top of the game. It's you know, it's pretty incredible if you exercise, keep your engine tuned and all.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's pretty incredible that he's as fast as everybody's going. And
What's that thing they do?
yeah, training.
Oh, training.
Yeah,
Training.
eating right. We're on
Sprint.
diets. Yeah, we don't do that.
Sprint.
We don't do that training thing.
Yeah.
So
Awesome.
so we want to wish Corben Sharrah good luck in the future. It was a huge honor to be our first full-on BMX interview here, and thank you
Oh yeah.
for all the ins of the new company, both the dirt shaping company, and it's got an Instagram page too, don't you?
Yeah, that one has an Instagram page.
And what's it again?
That one's Creed Earthworks, CREAD. And is it underscore or no? Is it all one word? And then Earthworks, all one word.
So again, we want to thank Nikki because we can tell that she's in the background. My wife had a big accident at Nashville this spring. We're not even going to Nashville. We're going to the Indy 500 for 3 days. We're going to the
Oh, look at you guys.
parade. We're not even doing Nashville, she says.
Nope.
But Carrie was laying there, got her on a backboard, thought she had like a Charlie horse and I called Nikki. I was like, Nikki, you need to come over here. So Nikki come over, and Nikki thought, okay, we're going to put like this muscle machine on her. And as soon as she touched her and Carrie started screaming, Nikki looked at her and says, girl, you need to go to the hospital. And you should take Carrie to the hospital. So of course, Carrie refused the ambulance. We put her on her backboard in the back of Shannon Silva's Bronco and backboarded her over. But so thank you, Nikki, for being one of the few people in this world that my wife will listen to. And Yeah.
Hopefully, I don't need your services ever again.
Yeah.
Yeah, hopefully that's not, hopefully we don't need that again.
Yeah. BMX is a rough sport. So, again, thank you, Corben Sharrah. And like he says earlier, there's still some gas in the tank of Corben Sharrah. We want to thank you for being on the Strange Motion Way podcast.
The Strange Motion Way podcast, brought to you by Royal Purple Synthetic Oils.
Royal Purple premium synthetic motor oils and high-performance chemicals have been designed to improve performance in all conditions and provide cleaner operation, better mileage, and decreased oil change frequency. That means less oil changes. With products available for your gasoline and diesel engines, Royal Purple is the obvious choice for your performance needs. Drive with Royal Purple, the synthetic expert.